Well, hello friends, and welcome to another Ask Zach. This is our end of year 2021 kind of recap, Viewer Choice Awards, top 5 videos, just a kind of a 2021 wrap-up video, and going to talk about the importance of amps. I know that seems like I just fired a shotgun at you or something with all these different things, but it's all going to come together, I promise you. So, yeah, we're going to end up talking about amps and the importance of amps and why you guys have, watched these amp videos and why they're the most popular ones that I've introduced, especially over the last year. So, of course, while you're thinking about it, if you haven't subscribed already and if you've been enjoying the show, please go down in the corner of the Deluxe Reverb and hit the subscribe button. And, yeah, if you've already subscribed, well, I really appreciate you supporting the show because that truly is what keeps the content going. There's multiple ways. There's tip jar information in the description. You can go to askzach.com and you can find merch like this nice, comfortable t-shirt. Not, as old Uncle Larry says, it's a non-Gildan, which, yes, I've suffered through many of those in my touring days. Yeah, it's a good soft shirt. And yeah, there's also Friends of Ask Zach, which is a way to support the channel on a monthly basis. And right now, the benefits of that are you get to see the episodes early and without commercials. And also, you get sent some of these Ask Zach guitar picks, which these are celluloid medium heavy. So I went back and forth between medium and heavy picks for a long time. And then I found that DeAndrea, that made Fender's picks back in the early days, through about the 90s or so, that they were still making this interesting gauge of celluloid pick that was right in between a medium and a heavy. And so I had some made up with the Ask Zach logo. And of course, if you become a friend of Ask Zach, you'll get some of these picks in the mail along with a little note. So yeah, also I'm going to be hopefully filming some exclusive content for Friends of Ask Zach just to make more and more of that a desirable thing. So, and thank you for everyone that's been supporting me. All right, let's dive in. All right, so what happened is that I was looking at the analytics for for the year, and I was looking at my top 5 videos, and it was really interesting because out of the top 5, 4 were about amps. And it made me think about, I do a variety of videos. I do kind of videos on, some amps and gear, and then, kind of what I would call personality profiles, or, then you have things that might be a little more philosophical or hands-on. And so anyway, I thought it was very interesting that 4 out of the 5, were amp videos. And it made me think about how important amps are and how sometimes that gets really overlooked. I think it has been bandied around a bit, where let's say you have a budget for a guitar and an amp, you should spend more money on the amp than the guitar. And I'm a proponent of that because no matter how good the guitar is, it's not going to sound good through, an unsatisfactory amp. And the other thing that people have to realize is that this by itself is not a musical instrument. It's not. It has to be plugged into something. It does not make enough noise to be heard at all above, maybe you practicing, by your bed, while your babies are sleeping or something like that. But this, it can't really be heard at all. I guess you could mic it up and get a bunch of rattly sounds. But an electric guitar, especially a solid body, it has to have an amplifier. And, that was something that Leo Fender, certainly thought about from the beginning, but I think that sometimes we don't think about that enough. So, yeah. So amps are important, and allow me, just the kind of the the luxury of kind of going through the top 5 videos of 2021. So number 1 was actually released last year, and it's just been such a popular video that it had enough views this year to still be number 1. So it's why the Deluxe Reverb is the best amp. Of course, I'm playing through mine today, and I still believe that. Released it March of 2020, and it's just kind of been a video that just continues to get a lot of views. I did get chastised for not playing in the video, and I don't know why I didn't play in the video at all, but I had a lot of people that had never seen any of my other videos, but they've watched that, and they're like, why don't you play? Do you even play the guitar? So anyway, I guess I should have played in the video, but whenever people say that, I'll link to another one or maybe a video of me just playing or something like that. But yeah. So, and then just to recap, the really important bits of that video was, of course, to me, the Deluxe is the right size. It's the right wattage. If the Deluxe is not loud enough for that gig, then I don't want to play it. I don't want to play that loud. I just have no desire to do that. Then the mods I do, I clip the bright cap on the vibrato channel. I put a Vintage 30 in there. I actually found out that the Vintage 30 I have is the Mesa Boogie version, which is actually still made, and you can buy it only from Mesa Boogie. It's made in the UK. It's around 130 bucks. Here's the one problem is on your Deluxe Reverb, you need to check to see how many bolts you have to hold a speaker. So a vintage one has 8 bolts. So there's a problem there. So you either have to cut 4 of the bolts, which is not a good idea, or you need to have extra holes drilled on the speaker, which that's somewhat difficult also, or you just need to go to another speaker. Now, Warehouse, WGS makes some Vintage 30 type speakers. They're not the exact same speaker, but they're close enough that you could use one of those, and those have 8 holes in it. The other thing that I do, and I didn't talk about this in the Deluxe Reverb video, is I pull V1. So that's the tube that is all the way to this side of the amp when you're looking at the back of it. I pull it, and that has to do with this channel because I don't use it. And what that does is it hits V2 with more voltage, okay? And then I put a 5751 there. And then I have kind of a mix of new and old tubes in the rest of the preamp. And then I use tongue saw, new tongue saw 6V6s. And, I think that's a JJ GZ34 rectifier. So I have a mix of kind of, I just have a couple new old stock tubes. Like the 5751 is a new old stock tube. And I think the 12AT7 driver, I use a new old stock. But the rest are new tubes. And I do that because I just want to be able to have some consistency. It's hard when you get reliant on new old stock tubes. And then, then it's very hit or miss at times. So anyway, yeah, that's the Deluxe Reverb, and I'm glad that that's been such a popular video because it's my favorite amp. It's my ground zero amp. If if I had to sell a bunch of amps and had to raise a bunch of money, this would be the last one to go. All right, video number 2, that was the second most popular video was also on the Deluxe Reverb, but this one was on the Tonemaster, the Revenge of the Blonde Tonemaster. And I have to say, I love this amp. This is a great amp, and I highly recommend it to someone that's wanting to buy a Deluxe. Why? Because it already has most of the mods that you would need to do to another Deluxe. So this already has the virtual bright cap clipped, because this is not a tube amp. This is a modeling amp. It also already has a Celestion speaker, and it just sounds great. It doesn't have tubes in it. It's, around $1,000. I've gigged with this thing. I've used the XLR out. It just really does a great job, almost scarily so. So this is the amp I usually take along with this amp or with the Vox amp that I use at times. This is always kind of my backup or stereo amp, and I think it's just stellar. And I think it's really funny because how this all started was I asked to see the blackface Tonemaster, and I didn't like it at all. I tried to be as polite as possible, but I just didn't like the amp. I didn't like how bright it was. I didn't like the reverb circuit in it. And, there was a number of things. I didn't like the Jensen speaker they put in there. And then they ended up, every point that I didn't like about the amp, they corrected with this one. And, so I highly recommend this amp for you guys that are gigging or want kind of a trouble-free amp. So it's a good one. All right, let's put that down. And another thing, of course, it's light, so I wouldn't be kind of monkeying around with that one. All right, the next one was a surprise, and that's because this was one of the biggest videos of the whole year, and it was just released a couple weeks ago, and it was how small amps got big, which I'll admit that was kind of a fun title and a fun topic, because I started thinking about just how much PA systems had influenced amps, guitar amps. And so basically, as PA systems were able to get more powerful and to actually reinforce, which they weren't capable of. In the old days, the only way people heard your guitar was your guitar amp. You didn't mic up your guitar amp in the 50s, 60s, and even into the 70s, and then really into the 80s that you see it regularly being where amps are mic'd up. So that's why Showman amps, Fender dual Showmans and Marshall stacks and Ampeg SVTs were what you saw a lot on stages, and a lot of times it was because they weren't being mic'd up. So I thought that was a really fun episode, and also just looking at the reason why small amps have gotten to be so much more popular, and it's because you really don't need to have a huge amp anymore unless you're just wanting. Now, of course, a twin has a certain sound, a Marshall stack has a certain sound, but yeah, you don't need those unless that's just what you got to have. All right, next up was the one amp video, and that was my Telecaster setup hacks. And I just thought, of course, I'm glad that was of interest, because basically in that video, I'm showing how I do, a setup on a guitar without having a bunch of tools around, because these are just techniques that I got, being out on the road without any real gear besides the guitar itself and just having like a screwdriver and something else. You learn these little hacks like setting pickup height, like, I would press down on the last fret on the high E string and make sure that this pickup just cleared it, so it wasn't touching. And then I would set the rest to match. So then I would set the other side to match the output there. And then, of course, you'd go over to the bridge pickup. And, there's all these little hacks. And it's just, siding down the neck like this, checking for relief, just, pressing down there and just eyeballing it and such. But, yeah. That's a fun video, and glad people took to that and liked it, because it's certainly been handy for me. So, all right, next in the fifth was the Fender Vibro Champ Reverb. So here's this guy, and this was an amp that Fender sent me kind of out of the blue. Normally, I would ask for something from Fender, and most of the time, I send it back. Now, the Tonemaster and the Chris Stapleton Princeton are the two amps that I asked for, and then they let me, and then I asked to keep them. But this one they just sent, and at first I was really afraid because I don't like champs, and the reason I don't like them is because they don't really have good clean sounds. They kind of are known more for getting a good distorted sound at low volume. I mean, that's kind of the reason why you play through a tweed champ or even a blackface one most of the time. So this one, I didn't even want to open up the box, and finally I did, and I hadn't read anything about him, but then when I plugged in, I found out, well, it's got a 10-inch speaker, and it's got a digital reverb circuit, and it just has a nice, very, a wonderful clean sound. And so I highly recommend this amp for the guy that's, wants an amp to just have at their house to play through, that they're not going to try to, gig with it. And you can even take this over to a jam, over to a friend's house and stuff like that. And it just sounds great. It's got a really good tremolo, really good reverb. The reverb has a little bit of modulation on it. So anyway, this is a fun amp, and this is the amp that I plug in, most of the time, just, playing around the house. And I'll even, I've even taken it. I played at my son's piano recital along with him. We did a duet, and I took this, with me, and it was perfect for playing along with him, because that way, again, it could turn up to 5. Got just a touch of hair on there, and it was really nice. So yeah. All right. Well, that's the top 5, and again, it was all about except for the setup hacks, it was all about amps. And I just thought that was interesting. Of course, I've done a number of amp videos, but the fact that that's what y'all are drawn to was quite interesting. Yeah. So again, this is my last episode of the year. I'm going to be taking off, of course, the week of Christmas, and and then I'm going to be playing some shows with Paul Bogart around New Year's. So the December 30th, I'm going to be in Tulsa at the Hard Rock Cafe, or Hard Rock Casino, I should say. So if you're in Tulsa on the 30th, I'll be playing there. If you want to come out and visit, that would be fun. I'm going to be playing in Wichita, Kansas on the 31st. So that's a New Year's Eve show. And that's again, in Wichita, Kansas. I don't know the venue, but I can find that out. And if you're around the area, send me an email. And then the 1st of January 2022, I'll be back at a casino in Tulsa. So be playing these 3 shows at the end of the year, and if you're in the area, would love to see you. Just want to thank y'all again for a great year, for watching, for coming up with great ideas for videos. I've really enjoyed doing the live streams where we actually get to answer questions live. I appreciate people hitting the super chat and the tip jar and all that stuff, kind of being kind. So I just want to wish you all happy holidays, Merry Christmas, happy Hanukkah, happy Kwanzaa. I hope this is a time that you can be joyful and grateful, and I'm grateful for y'all. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.